All right, welcome to another video by Kinger Financial. Today we're going to talk about paying off debt. So there's a few things that you need to do first before we can actually start looking at how are you going to pay off that debt in the best way possible. The first thing you need to do is if you have not created yourself a budget for what you need to pay every month to know how much money you have left, go check out our series on how to budget and get yourself a budget created. Make sure you're putting your minimum payments for all your debt as part of your budget, along with all of your other bills and expenses that you have. Once you have that budget created, come on back to this video. For those that already have it created, great job. Let's keep on moving. Once you have that budget created, the next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that in your budget you have some money going to an emergency fund. So let's say in your budget, everything is budgeted and every month you have about $500 left over. I would say take $200 to $300 of that and set that aside as emergency fund in your bank account. Maybe you have a checking and a savings account, so you can transfer that money down to the savings account and it can just sit in your savings account. So if something happens, you have the money there instead of continuing to get into more debt. Once you determine how much is going into your emergency fund, then that will tell you how much more is left over. So if we go with the same scenario, you have $500 extra. We put $300 into the emergency fund, so that leaves you with $200 that you can use towards paying off your debt. Now we want to make sure that we're using that $200 extra a month in the proper way to get rid of our debt as fast as possible with paying the least amount of interest. And that's what we're going to talk about today. In order to figure this out, you're going to need to collect some data. So you're going to need to go look at all of your debt, credit cards, student loans, cars, mortgages. You don't need to look at those. You're going to just pay your minimum, your monthly payment every month for your mortgage. We want to get rid of all the other debt that has the higher interest rates, which is usually your credit cards, student loans, car payments, any other debts that you have. And what you're going to need to collect is you're going to need to collect the balance that's due, the APY, which would be your annual percentage rate, your APR, which you might have to look that up on your statements. Sometimes some places it's hard to find, so you got to kind of do some digging around. Most of the time it should be on your most recent statement. If it's not, you might have to go into like the account information, account management on an online site to get it. And then you're going to need to know what your minimum payment is. So whether it's like $25 a month or 200 or 600, whatever that minimum payment is, that should already be included in your budget to make sure that you have to pay your minimum budget every single month. So once you get all that information, get it written down and then come on back. Now there's lots of different calculators, spreadsheets, all kinds of things out there that can help you with figuring out which debt to pay off first. The one that I really like is if you go online and you just type in debt reduction calculator into Google. It's the one here by Vertex 42. They provide a free spreadsheet. It's great. They created it really well, and that's the one I prefer. So you can click on it, and then you're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to do this first one here, the debt reduction calculator. And then you got to scroll down, and you can either download it to Excel if you have Excel, or you can do it as a Google Sheet. So once you get that downloaded, what you're going to do is you're going to type in all your credit information of all your creditors, what your balance is, what the rate is, and what your minimum payment is. Don't care about this custom over here on the side. Just go ahead and type in your credit names, balance, rate, and payment. Then what we're going to do is it tells you for all these minimum payments, that's a total of $1,020.12 is my minimum payments that I got to make every month. But remember, we said we have an extra $200 a month. So that means that we can actually pay a total of $1,220.12. So in this monthly payment, I'm going to type in with that additional 200 that I have 1220.12 a month to use to pay off my debt. And if you notice, that initial snowball amount changed to 200, which is the extra amount I set in my budget that I have to pay this off. And then what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down after you have that all put in. And at the bottom here, it calculates everything and it tells you your total interest you would pay as long as you keep making these payments, you don't add any more debt to any of these items, how much it will cost in interest to pay it all off. And what we want to do is in this strategy here, there's a bunch of different choices. What we want to do is we want to know which one is going to give us the least amount of interest paid over time. So you're just going to start clicking on them and look at the interest. So like the snowball one, 13,000. The highest interest, 11,500. Order and table is 11,530. No snowball means if we didn't have that extra $200 a month, I'd be paying 17,872 if I just paid all the minimum payments. Custom highest first or custom lowest first doesn't change it because we didn't write these. If you, for example, maybe you want to get rid of your student loans first for whatever reason, you might type in here for custom, like I want to get rid of this one first, then this one, if that's how you feel, and it will then calculate based on what you're saying how much it will cost. So the one that's going to be the least is the highest interest first for this scenario that I have on my screen. So we're going to pay $11,529.58. And you may be wondering, okay, but where does that extra $200 go every month? So that's where we're going to click on the second tab here that says payment schedule. And it's going to tell you how much every month are you going to pay. So for the first month, I'm going to end up paying $300 to my Capital One account. I'm going to pay the $670.12 to my car payment, $50 to student loan C, $100 to student loan A and B. And I'm just going to follow this every month of how much to pay. And if you notice, my Capital One in 12 months is going to be gone and paid for, as long as I don't put anything else on that card. And then that $200 is going to get adjusted and it's now going to go towards paying my car off. So now I'm going to pay an extra $200 a month towards my car every month. Well, I'm going to pay $200 plus because now the Capital One is paid off. That gives me now an extra $100 that I was paying to Capital One as my minimum payment that I can now transfer to paying my car. So I'm paying even more on my car than I was before. And as you keep doing this, once the car is paid off, which would take up to 45 months, then all that money that you were using to pay for the car can now get transferred over to the next one. And you can see it's only going to take a couple months to pay off that next one. And then when all that money gets transferred over, it's only a few more months and a few more months. So as you pay off more of them, you'll notice and transfer that big amount of money over, you'll get to pay them off. So as long as I didn't get any more debt on any of these in 58 months, which seems like a long time, I would have this all paid off. And then I wouldn't have debt as long as I didn't create any more debt for myself. So this is also where you need to be paying attention to your budget and making sure that you actually stick to your budget. If you don't stick to your budget and let's say you do an extra night out at the movies or an extra restaurant out this month and it costs you an extra $150, well, now that's going to take away from you being able to pay off your debt because you need to pay off what you just bought. So that's where your budget is helpful, is trying to make sure that you're sticking to your budget. And maybe the best thing that would happen is you over budgeted for certain items. So that month you didn't use all your money that you had, let's say for restaurants. Great. That means you have a little extra money that month that you can either put in your emergency fund. So if the next month you do eat out one more time, okay, I have that little extra money. Or if you know you're going to stick to your budget, you can use that little extra money to put towards one of your debts to pay it off sooner. So that is how you can figure out how to pay off your debts and stick to it. As long as you're sticking to your budget and you're sticking to this to pay it off, then you should be able to get your debts paid off. And on this spreadsheet here at the top, it tells you when each one would be paid off. So on the calculator here, if you put the date, whatever date you pulled all your balances, then on the payment schedule, it will give you an idea of when it will get paid off. So that can help you with knowing how long is it going to take me? And like all of these would be paid off September 30 means September of 2030. So that means by September 2030, then I would have everything paid off and I'd have no debts as long as I stick to my budget and I make sure I'm paying what this schedule tells me to pay towards each one and I'm not adding extra debt, especially to my credit card. So, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, send an email to kingerfinancial@gmail.com, or go to our website and schedule a one-on-one appointment if you want to talk further and need help with doing your budget or figuring out how to pay off your debt sooner.